Hi, everybody. All right, wow, it's been a while. Where do I start? Before I get into the talk, I actually want to take this opportunity to share some personal news, which is I have stepped down from my position as CEO and creative director of Bitmoji, which started here in Toronto a long time ago as Bitstrips. It's been an amazing 15-year journey, and I can't give enough thanks to my partners, my amazing team, and everyone who worked with us along the way on such an amazing collaboration that touched so many lives. It's been hard to step away after we only really just began to scratch the surface of the potential of avatars. But for me personally, Bitstrips and Bitmoji actually represented phases 3 and 4 of a 5-phase, 50-year plan that began in 1997 with the creation and activation of the Core Matrix Chaos Engine. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about avatars, which have their origins thousands of years ago as a concept in Hinduism, where deities would take on material forms to do cool shit on Earth. And over time, this concept eventually evolved into actual products usable by humans, like Yahoo avatars and Habbo Hotel. For decades, we've been using avatars in video games, where you could say that any playable character is a kind of an avatar because it lets you live in the game. But I think today the most interesting avatars are the ones that look like us, the ones that we're using in our social media and our messaging to represent ourselves online as we live more and more of our lives there. Back in 2013, I told a room of investors here in Toronto that within 10 years, every human on Earth would exist as a cartoon character on the internet. And they scratched their heads. When I continued to frantically insist that this was inevitable and we have to do something about it, they threw me out. But today, it feels like avatars are everywhere. They're integrated into every major online platform. It's a fascinating phenomenon as we're collectively transforming into a new kind of entity with multiple forms, both physical and digital. So the purpose of this talk is to share some ideas that I came across while working on Bitstrips and Bitmoji that explore how and why avatars have become so ubiquitous, and how, more importantly, how we might unlock their best and most positive potential, which really should be our goal with any new technology. And for everyone here who already has an avatar, or maybe you have multiple avatars, or maybe you're just avatar curious and you're thinking about getting one, I hope this gets you thinking about, what does this mean for you? What does this mean for your life? What does it all mean? Way back in 2007, my friends and I created this website called bitstrips.com, where people could make and publish their own comic strips. We had a comic builder and a character builder, and naturally, people designed themselves as their characters and put themselves into their comics. It was this amazing creative community where people were not only creating art, they were living together in their art as their avatars. One of those people was my mom, who became a prolific comic creator. And she even would often put me in her comics, seemingly in an attempt to publicly humiliate me. This is what her avatar looked like. After a couple of years, we updated the character art so that it was a bit less blocky and more human. And I told my mom, Mom, you can update your avatar now. You can make it look more like you. But then she pointed at one of her comics, and she said, but that's me. And I looked at the comic, and to my amazement and horror, I realized that she was right. When I looked at that weird character, I saw her. It was her. I was seeing her. This is the moment I realized the existence of the avatar bond, which is a magical, metaphysical phenomenon that happens when you use an avatar repeatedly over time to represent yourself to the people that you care about, the people that you want to see you. It can be something much more powerful than just having an image of yourself. It's like another incarnation that enables you to exist in another dimension where people can see you and interact with you. So, as I contemplated this idea of the avatar bond, I started to wonder, how does it form? What's the difference between a weak bond and a strong bond? And assuming you can figure out how to make a strong bond, what's the best thing to do with it? What's the point of all this? What is the point? Wondering along these lines led me to think about how different products and features related to the avatar bond. And that led me to something I call avatar theory. And it's just a theory, but I think it's actually a helpful lens if you're developing avatar-based products, or if you're just thinking about what an avatar can do for you. It's a triangular lens with 3 levels of focus. The first and most obvious level is identity, which is about having an avatar that you feel really represents you. And ideally an avatar that you can really love, even if you hate yourself. It doesn't have to be accurate, as we've seen with Bitstrips, but the visual style might be another aspect of how you see yourself and how you want to be seen. Also, your identity isn't just about how you look or what you're wearing, it's about your personality. And so in order to capture that, it's essential that the avatar is really as expressive as possible, which is why cartoon characters are so effective as avatars. Now, the second level is the most crucial to make this really mean something, and that's utility. Because it's easy to make a static image of yourself in a wide variety of visual styles, which is why there's now thousands of apps that do that. But what's harder is to make the avatar useful, which is essential to create the bond. Because if it's just a picture of you, then you might look at it now and then, but it's not really becoming a living incarnation of you. You have to use it, ideally every day, for that to happen. And the more you use it, the stronger the bond gets. Without real utility, the best you can hope for is a weak bond. Profile pics, which are everywhere, are an example of a kind of avatar image, but you don't really use it, and it's small and it's static, so it feels more like a placeholder than a real incarnation of you. Our breakthrough, going from Bitstrips to Bitmoji, was to turn avatars into a medium for communication, to make them truly useful by transforming something fundamental that everyone needs to do all day, every day, into a better, more personal, and more delightful experience. Speaking of experience, that's the third level. The idea is, if you create an avatar that someone identifies with, and then you make it useful so that a strong bond forms and it becomes an extension of their self, then you can put that avatar into all kinds of new experiences that will feel more meaningful and personal the stronger the bond is. And the better those experiences are, the further they'll reinforce the bond, which will make further experiences even better. And it creates this virtuous cycle that increases the value of every part of the system the more that you use it. A couple examples of this kind of experience are Bitmoji Stories and Bitmoji TV, which are a comic strip and an animated show that we made that stars you and your friends, avatars. These turned out to be so engaging. They wound up getting more subscribers than Kylie Jenner and Kim Kardashian combined, which proves that people care more about their avatars and their friends' avatars than the biggest influencers in the world. Now, maybe these could have been fun and novel as standalone products, but because the audience was already bonded with their avatars and their friends' avatars, because they were using them and seeing them every day in different contexts, they felt way more personal, to the point where people would actually accuse us of spying on them through their phones and writing the comics based on their lives. And speaking of bonding with your friends' avatars, this is yet another level of this whole phenomenon that has a multiplier effect, because the more your friends see you as your avatar, and vice versa, the more each of your avatar bonds are reinforced. And as that happens, a group avatar bond forms, which is this powerful network effect, where now you and your friends and your family are like this cast of characters that are living together in these experiences and in these different use cases, where you're not just bringing your identities into it, you're bringing your relationships into it, which adds a layer of meaning to it that's unique just to you, which is super powerful. And that's the theory, which is how basically how these different aspects of avatar products can work together to create this metaphysical connection between us and our avatars, and how that connection can lead us to incredibly engaging and potentially life-changing experiences. Now, it took us a while to figure this out. After creating many different avatar products over many years, we launched Bitmoji in 2014. And it was more successful than anything that came before it, because not only was it representative and entertaining, but it was most importantly really useful, which generated really strong and unique avatar bonds on a massive scale. And it became a cultural phenomenon. And within a few years, Samsung launched AR emojis, Apple launched Memojis, Facebook launched avatars, TikTok launched theirs, and dozens of startups raised millions upon millions of dollars in an attempt to be the next Bitmoji. You're welcome. We always expected this would happen. For years, I told my team, the avatar wars are coming. The more successful we are, the more competitive it's going to get. And for a long time, our vision to win the war was to be the world's avatar, to be the one avatar to rule them all by coming with you from one application to another. But the reality is, none of those applications exist outside of larger platforms. And as those platforms started to realize the value of the avatar and their inevitable ubiquity, they realized that it was in their best interest to own them, which is why now every major platform has its own avatar. And even if they allow cross-platform avatars to be used here and there, they're still going to be integrated with and optimized for the avatar that they own. So in a world of competing tech giants, this concept of the one universal avatar might actually be a non-starter after all. Maybe the avatar wars are already over and we all lost. Because when you combine this understanding of the mega corporation's desire to own your avatar with the concept of the avatar bond, this whole situation takes a disturbing turn. If the avatar is an extension of you, then the billions that these companies are pouring into their own avatar systems are all an investment in owning a version of you. But what else is new? We've been living in that world for a while. It's just taking human form now. Yours. So this just got a little dark, and I'm almost out of time, and I don't want to leave you here, so I'm going to try to turn it around, but it might get a little darker first. You see, I believe that avatar technology, like any new technology with world-changing potential, is an inevitable development as we evolve towards becoming non-biological beings. And it's really expensive to develop, so naturally it's going to be owned by corporations. That's just the way it is. So how do we make the best of this? My theory is that the avatar theory is how we make the best of this, which is why I'm sharing it here today. If all the avatar startups and all the tech giants listen to and try to realize these ideas, then maybe this competition will drive us to collectively realize the full potential of avatars, which is, if we make the avatars as useful as possible, they can change our lives for the better. And if we can achieve that, then they'll become even more a part of us. And if that happens, then in the right hands, i.e. artists, There's transcendental potential to explore through new immersive avatar experiences that have yet to even be invented. The more we are our avatars, the more impactful and transformative those experiences might be. And if that happens, then our buying into the capitalist quest to redesign and own our reality might just be worth it in the end, somehow. What I mean by that is two things. The first is something I think we can all get excited about, which is if you think about how your life has been impacted by all the experiences you've had in books, in movies, in video games, in comics, in art, just imagine the life-changing potential of these new avatar-powered experiences when they're created by great artists. The second thing is a challenge to any company, big or small, that's trying their hand at avatars, which is, please try to get to what I just described. Let's please take this to the most interesting and exciting place that we can. Because if the whole purpose of your avatar system is to just sell virtual clothes, how fucking boring is that, really? Like, who cares? If you're gonna, do what you gotta do to make it cost effective, but if you're gonna own our avatars, you owe it to us to do more with them. Put them in the hands of real artists and let them take us via our avatars to the craziest dimensions they can dream of. Do that. Do it! Do it! Thank you.